Welcome back, adventurers, builders, and engineers, to another episode of our Minecraft Civil Engineering series. My name is K-Hug, you can call me Kyler, and today is episode number 3 of our Civil series, and we're diving into the principles of grading and earthwork. Before we start laying down the foundations of our structures, it's crucial to shape the land appropriately. Grading involves altering the slope and elevation of the terrain to ensure our buildings have a stable and level base. This process also includes creating proper drainage paths to prevent water from pooling around our construction, which can lead to instability and damage over time. We'll be discussing earthwork, which is the process of moving large amounts of soil and rock to create suitable landscape for our projects. This includes cutting into hills, filling in valleys, and ensuring the ground can support the weight of the structures and roads that we build. Throughout this episode, we'll cover the techniques and tools necessary for effective grading and earthwork, and I'll share some real-world civil engineering principles that can be applied in Minecraft. So grab your shovels, grab your pickaxes, and let's get into shaping the world for our next big build. Grading is all about reshaping the terrain to suit our needs. In the real world, this means leveling the land, creating slopes, and ensuring that water flows away from our buildings. Good grading practice helps prevent issues like erosion and flooding. Leveling the land is often the first step in any construction project. By flattening the area, we create a stable and uniform base for our structures. This is especially important for larger builds where uneven terrain can lead to structural weaknesses and aesthetic inconsistencies. Grading slopes is another critical aspect of grading. Slopes help manage water flow, directing it away from our buildings and into designated drainage areas. These can be achieved by carefully planning the gradient of the land, ensuring the rainwater or other sources of water naturally move towards the lower areas. This helps prevent water from pooling around the base of our structures, which can lead to erosion and potential damage over time. Good grading practices also involve considering the long-term impact of our modifications to the terrain. By designing the land to accommodate for the natural water flow and incorporating features like drainage ditches or retaining walls, we can prevent issues like the soil erosion and flooding. These features are not only functional, but they can also enhance overall aesthetics of our builds. Incorporating real-world civil engineering principles into our Minecraft projects, we can create more realistic and sustainable environments. By creating smooth, consistent slopes, ditches, and other water transportation systems, or even retaining walls, we can enhance our builds to mimic real-life applications. Though we don't necessarily need to mitigate erosion in Minecraft, it's fun to challenge ourselves to build comprehensive, real-world features. Also, I don't know if this exists, but how cool would it be if there was a mod to demonstrate erosion and flooding? Does that exist? If you know, leave a link down in the description below. First, let's talk about leveling. When you're planning to build a major structure, the first thing we need is a flat, stable surface. This ensures that our buildings have a solid foundation, which is crucial for both the structural integrity and the aesthetic appeal. In Minecraft, leveling the ground involves using tools like shovels and pickaxes to remove the high spots and fill in the lows. By doing this, we create a uniform terrain that's ideal for construction. Imagine you're building a large fortress, a sprawling mansion, or even an entire village. Starting on uneven ground can cause problems that down the line, such as misaligned walls or uneven floors. As you work, it's important to pay attention to the overall topography. Sometimes you may need to raise or lower the entire plot of land to match the surrounding environment. For example, if you're building on the side of a hill, right up in here for example, you might need to dig into the hillside to create a flat surface, or alternately bring in dirt to fill the land in to our desired level. Leveling isn't just about practicality, it's also about planning for the future. A well-leveled site makes it easier to expand your builds, add new structures, or even landscape the surrounding area. Whether you're laying down the foundations for a grand castle or a humble farmhouse, starting with a flat surface ensures your building process will be smoother and your final result more polished. In addition to enhancing the stability and appearance of your structures, leveling the terrain also helps with functional aspects like redstone wiring or farming, where even ground is essential. So before you start placing those first blocks, take the time to level your building site. It's the foundation of a successful project, both literally and figuratively. As you can see, leveling a large area of land can be time consuming, but it is crucial for a stable build. Now that our building site is level, we can move on to slopes and grades. Proper drainage is essential for protecting our structures from potential water damage. In Minecraft, just like in the real world of civil engineering, ensuring that water flows away from your building is crucial to maintaining the integrity and longevity of our projects. When water pools around structures, it can lead to various problems over time. In real life, this could be foundation erosion, water damage, or even a structural failure. While Minecraft doesn't simulate these issues to the same degree, good drainage practices can still play a vital role in the design and functionality of our builds. To achieve proper drainage, we can use blocks to create gentle slopes that direct water away from our buildings. This might involve raising the terrain near the base of our structure, or gradually sloping it downwards as you move away from the building. By doing so, any water that falls onto the ground, whether from rain or from another source, will naturally flow away from the foundation, reducing the risk of pooling. In some cases, you might want to enhance your drainage systems by adding features like channels or ditches to further guide water away from critical areas. These can be lined with gravel or stone to simulate drainage materials, adding both function and a visual appearance to your build. By taking the time to create the proper slopes and drainage systems, you're not just improving the aesthetic of your project, you're also ensuring that your structures are protected from the potential environmental challenges. Here we've created a 1 to 4 slope, which means that for every 4 blocks in the horizontal direction, we have a 1 block vertical drop. This ensures that rainwater flows away from our structures or along the roads or other ridges that we are creating. Now, this isn't just some arbitrary number that I chose for this example. In civil engineering, the 1 to 4 slope ratio is commonly used for managing water runoff, and it works well in Minecraft too. By maintaining this ratio, we create a gentle but effective slope that directs water to flow downhill away from any building or structure. This not only helps protect the structure from potential water damage, but it also enhances the overall realism and functionality of the landscape. So now you may notice there are 2 exposed areas of grade, and those are picture-perfect places for retaining walls. And we'll get to those later in the video, so stay tuned. Now let's take everything we learned down here and apply it to our sample homes up above. For our first example, we are going to use our standard residential home here. Now we can obviously see that there is quite a bit of grading to be had around this sample structure. We've got a recessed garage down here below the elevation of the land, and we've also got a slab home up above the garage that is directly abutted to this hillside. So let's go ahead and use some of the principles that we just learned and modify this home to functionally enhance the water drainage patterns. We're going to start by cutting down and around this garage, creating a nice even slope out to the frontage road, and then along the backs and the sides we are going to go ahead and create some sort of ditch or swale to traverse the water around our build. Okay, and you already may be able to see some substantial changes to the terrain behind us. And that is because we've done a little bit of modifications here to the grading or the slopes of our site. Now, first and foremost, we went ahead and graded down our finished floor level of our garage to be even with the terrain outside, bringing this down at a constant slope, again, that 4 to 1, down to where the existing road infrastructure may run. Along the edges of our building, where the slope was a little steeper than we would have liked, we did increase our slope to a 1 to 2 along the base, but then we've also added a slope in this general direction. Now, it's tough to show this in Minecraft without upscaling this build, but from this perspective, you can see that the water both flows in this direction and also away from the building in that direction, and that keeps our building from, well, taking on any water. Around the next 2 sides are probably where the most amount of changes have occurred. And that is back here, beginning with this raised elevation here. Now, we don't necessarily know what is going on beyond the limits of our property line here, but what we do know is that we are taking on a lot of water, which is heading right for the backside of our house. So in order to mitigate that, there are a couple things we can put into practice. And one of those is retaining walls. Sometimes we need to build on slopes or uneven terrain, and in these situations, retaining walls become incredibly useful. These structures play a critical role in stabilizing the soil, preventing erosion, and creating a flat, secure area for construction. In real-world engineering, retaining walls are designed to hold back the soil that would otherwise slide or erode due to natural slope of the land, and in Minecraft they serve a similar purpose, allowing us to carve out a flat building site on hillsides or steep terrain without worrying about the land collapsing or shifting. Retaining walls are especially useful when you want to create multiple levels or terraces on a sloped area. By building a series of retaining walls, you can step the terrain down gradually, grading areas for different structures or gardens. This not only maximizes the use of our space, but it also adds a depth of interest to your build. In addition to their practical benefits, retaining walls can be a great way to enhance the aesthetics of your construction. You can incorporate them into the overall design of your build, using them to create raised platforms, scenic overlooks, or even defensive structures in your castle fortresses. So let's go ahead and have our hand at creating a quick retaining wall in some of the places that we need around our little home here. And just like that, we have a nice little wall. And it's not much, but it does give proof or evidence that this is some sort of retaining feature. And now all the water that is landlocked up here will eventually flow down along here, which there will be under drains along this to capture some of the water retained behind this wall. And now since that works, we can head on over to the front where we have another retaining wall situation. You can see that our biggest problem with this build is that, well, our door is significantly higher than the finished grade all the way down here. And equally so, to add another constraint to this build, is our garage is also at a lower elevation. So with another little retaining wall, also known in this situation as a wing wall, we can create a barrier to hold back the land and keep this site functional. This little build is already coming together quite nicely. There is one key feature left, and that is the odd corner we have here. Thankfully, there are things called exposed foundation in the construction industry, which allows you to leave a foundation exposed in order to mitigate the water or the amount of grading and earthwork that you need. And this is as simple as it sounds. This is just the bits of foundation, which, hold on, we gotta get a half block in here. The bits of foundation that can be exposed to the outer world. Oh no. By leaving an exposed foundation on this corner, we are not required to have a 4-to-1 slope out here. Instead, the water does run off the building and still away in that early direction. With the proper grading and earthwork, we have officially transformed this challenging terrain into a beautiful and functional residential site. Our building is stable, our road is smooth, and we have effective drainage to prevent water issues. So with all that new information, that brings us to a close on today's episode. Thank you for joining us in this episode of our Minecraft Civil Engineering series. Do not forget to like, comment, subscribe, and go ahead and hit the notification bell so you don't miss out on the next one. Happy building, everyone!